Welcome to Buddhist Applications, Truth Seekers. Today we're embarking on a journey into one of the most profound questions in Buddhism. Do Buddhists believe in God? You may have heard of Buddhism as a religion without a God, or perhaps you've wondered how Buddha's wisdom fits into the discussion of divinity. In this video, we'll explore these ideas with mindfulness, embracing the essence of Buddhist philosophy. First, let's pause and reflect. What does God mean to you? In many religions, God is seen as an all-powerful, all-knowing creator. But in the Buddhist religion, the idea of an omnipotent deity takes a different shape. Buddha's teachings or the wisdom of Buddhism do not center around worshipping a god. Instead, they focus on wisdom, compassion, and self-discovery. Interestingly, some ask whether Buddhists believe in Jesus or how Buddhism views other spiritual figures. The answer is nuanced. Buddhism invites us to see beyond the surface. It asks us to look within, to find our own light. This reflects a central principle in Buddhist wisdom. The path to liberation is personal, not dependent on external divinities. Yet, that doesn't mean Buddhism denies the existence of gods entirely. In fact, many Buddhist traditions, especially in Tibet and Japan, honor deities like Avalokiteshvara and Tara. These deities are seen not as creators but as symbols of enlightened qualities, helping individuals on their path. So, as we continue this mindful journey together, remember, Buddha and God are not opposing forces. This is an invitation to explore deeper truths about yourself and the universe. Stay with us, and let's unravel the layers of this spiritual question. If you've ever wondered about the Buddha prayer or how Buddhist wisdom can guide you, you're in the right place. Let's begin. 1. Defining God in different contexts. As we continue our journey, let's take a mindful moment to explore how Buddhism defines the idea of God and how it contrasts with more common Western views. In the Buddhist religion, the understanding of divinity is deeply intertwined with the search for inner peace and wisdom. This approach differs significantly from the theistic definition many of us are familiar with. In Western traditions, the concept of God often refers to an all-powerful, all-knowing creator, one who governs the universe, answers prayers, and judges human actions. This idea of a supreme being is central to many religions, from Christianity to Islam. People often wonder, do Buddhists believe in Jesus, or how does the Buddha fit into the picture of divine figures? In Buddhism, however, the focus shifts. Rather than looking for an omnipotent creator, Buddhists turn inward. Buddha's wisdom teaches that each of us has the potential to attain enlightenment, not through divine intervention, but through our own effort, mindfulness, and compassion. This is a fundamental difference. The Buddha himself is not considered a god but a human being who reached the highest state of wisdom, a path open to everyone. Buddhism versus God is not about denying divinity, but reinterpreting it. While traditional Western views emphasize an external god controlling destiny, Buddhist philosophy encourages us to seek liberation through our own inner work. Buddha's teachings focus on ending suffering through understanding and self-discipline. But does that mean Buddhists deny the existence of any godlike beings? Not entirely. In various Buddhist traditions, especially in countries like Tibet and Japan, you'll find the presence of deities. Figures such as Avalokiteshvara, the bodhisattva of compassion, or Tara, the female figure of protection, play important roles in spiritual practices. However, these deities are not seen as creators. Instead, they symbolize enlightened qualities that guide practitioners along their path. This idea reflects the essence of Buddhist thought. Divinity, in a Buddhist context, is less about worshipping a separate being and more about recognizing the qualities of compassion, wisdom, and mindfulness that already exist within ourselves. In this way, Buddha's wisdom leads us to understand that the ultimate source of strength lies within, rather than in an external god. By comparing the Buddhist view of God to the typical Western concept, we begin to see how unique Buddhism is in its teachings. It's not about rejecting faith or denying other religions. Instead, Buddhism offers an alternative path, one that encourages deep reflection, mindful living, and the pursuit of inner peace through self-discovery. So, as we continue this mindful journey together, remember, the question of Buddha and God is not a matter of opposition, but an invitation to explore deeper truths about yourself and the universe. Stay with us, and let's unravel the layers of this spiritual inquiry. Stay with us as we continue exploring this fascinating perspective. Next, we'll dive into the role of deities in Buddhist practice and how they guide spiritual growth. 2. The role of deities in Buddhist practice. As we continue our journey, it's important to understand the role of deities in Buddhism. While many people ask, do Buddhists believe in God? The answer is more complex than a simple yes or no. In Buddhist practice, gods and deities are not worshipped as creators but seen as guides or symbols of enlightened qualities. This makes Buddha's wisdom profoundly unique in comparison to other world religions. In countries like Tibet and Japan, deities play a significant role in Buddhist rituals and prayers. However, these deities, such as Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, or Tara, the protector, are not viewed in the same way as the Western understanding of an all-powerful, omniscient God. Instead, these figures are representations of specific virtues and qualities, like compassion, wisdom, or protection. In this way, they serve as a reflection of what we aspire to achieve on the path to enlightenment. It's fascinating to see how Buddhist wisdom blends mindfulness with the symbolic presence of deities. These deities are not external saviors, but rather mirrors of the potential within each one of us. By meditating on these figures or engaging in rituals, practitioners are reminded to cultivate these enlightened qualities within themselves. This is why, in many Buddhist traditions, Buddha prayer or chants focus on invoking these inner virtues rather than seeking favor from an external god. In this sense, the Buddhist religion reinterprets the role of deities. While Jesus is seen as the Son of God and central to the Christian faith, and many people wonder, do Buddhists believe in Jesus, or how does Jesus fit into Buddhism? The Buddhist approach to divinity remains more internal. The divine is found within, through the cultivation of wisdom, rather than through divine beings offering salvation. Additionally, many Buddhists believe in the presence of Buddha nature, the idea that all beings possess the seed of enlightenment. This concept acts as a parallel to the deities in Buddhist practice, showing that every one of us has the capacity for greatness, compassion, and wisdom, just like these spiritual figures. What is important to remember is that while Buddhist practice may incorporate Buddhist deities, it is always grounded in self-discovery. Rituals, offerings, and chants are meant to awaken the qualities these deities represent in the practitioner's heart and mind. In Buddhism, there is no divine judge or being controlling our destiny. Instead, it's about personal effort, meditation, and the cultivation of a peaceful and compassionate life. So when people ask about Buddha versus God, the real question may be about how each tradition views divinity. Buddhism sees deities as part of the spiritual path, but always as a reflection of qualities that already exist within each of us. Next, we'll dive deeper into the idea of self-discovery versus divine intervention, and explore how Buddhist wisdom focuses on personal effort and mindfulness as the path to liberation. Stay tuned for more insights into how these teachings can transform your understanding of life and spirituality. 3. Self-discovery versus divine intervention. Let's now turn our attention to one of the most important teachings in Buddhism, the idea that enlightenment comes from self-discovery, not from divine intervention. In many religions, there is a reliance on God or a divine figure to guide or save us. However, Buddha's wisdom teaches us something different. True liberation comes from within, through personal effort, mindfulness, and meditation. One of Buddha's most famous teachings was, "Be a lamp unto yourself." These simple words hold profound meaning. In Buddhist philosophy, this phrase encourages individuals to take responsibility for their own spiritual growth. Instead of looking outward to a deity or divine being for salvation, Buddhism teaches us to look inward. Our own wisdom, compassion, and insight are the keys to ending suffering. When people ask, do Buddhists believe in God or seek divine guidance in the same way Christians might pray to Jesus, the answer lies in the heart of Buddha's wisdom. Buddhism does not deny that divine beings or deities exist, but it does not place the burden of salvation or enlightenment on them. Instead, it empowers individuals to realize their own potential. This is a striking contrast to the concept of divine intervention found in many Western religions. Self-discovery, in the Buddhist religion, is a process of awakening. Through mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living, Buddhists believe that we can uncover our own Buddha nature. This is the seed of enlightenment that resides in each of us, waiting to be nurtured. Unlike in theistic traditions, where prayers might be directed to a god for help, in Buddhism, the practice is more about cultivating our own inner strength and clarity. Let's take a moment to reflect on this. The idea of self-discovery may feel empowering because it places the power for change in our own hands. There's no need to wait for a miracle or for an all-powerful being to intervene in our lives. Instead, we're encouraged to take practical steps to transform our minds and actions. Through practices like meditation, we can cultivate mindfulness and gain insight into the nature of our suffering, rather than hoping for divine intervention. This doesn't mean that Buddhists don't engage in ritual or prayer. For example, many practice Buddha prayer or recite mantras. But these prayers are different from the kind of prayer seen in Western religions. Instead of asking for something external, these prayers are meant to awaken inner qualities, such as compassion, patience, and wisdom, that help on the path to enlightenment. This reflects the heart of Buddhist wisdom. The path to liberation lies within us. So when people wonder about Buddhism versus God, it's not about rejecting faith in higher powers. Rather, it's a shift in focus. Buddhism is about discovering the divine qualities already within us through mindful effort and self-compassion. Stay with us as we continue exploring these transformative ideas. Next, we'll delve into the cosmic mechanism of karma and rebirth, and how this natural law operates without the need for a divine judge. Let's continue to walk the path of mindfulness and self-awareness together. 4. Karma and rebirth, the cosmic mechanism. Now let's explore two of the most important concepts in Buddhism, karma and rebirth. Together, they form a natural law that guides the cycle of life without the need for a divine judge or external authority. In the Buddhist religion, karma is a universal principle of cause and effect, shaping not just this life but also future ones. The word karma comes from Sanskrit and literally means action. But in Buddha's wisdom, it goes much deeper. Every thought, word, and action we take has consequences, not only in this life but also in future existences. This cause and effect relationship is fundamental to understanding Buddhist philosophy and the way it explains the universe. Many Westerners may wonder how this compares to their own beliefs. In Christianity, for example, there's often the idea of reaping what you sow, but in Buddhism, karma functions differently. There's no God keeping track of your actions, no divine being weighing your good deeds against your sins. Instead, karma is impersonal. It's like a natural law such as gravity. What we do now creates the conditions for our future experiences, whether in this life or in future lives. But how does rebirth fit into this? In Buddhist wisdom, rebirth is not the same as reincarnation in other traditions. There's no eternal soul that moves from one body to another. Instead, Buddha's teachings emphasize the idea of impermanence. Our bodies, thoughts, and experiences are constantly changing. When we die, it is the momentum of our actions, our karma, that propels us into a new life. The self that arises in that next life is a continuation of this stream of karma, but it is not exactly the same as the self we know now. For many, this may seem complex, but consider this. We can see the effects of karma in our daily lives. When we act with kindness, we create harmony and happiness, both for ourselves and others. When we act out of anger or selfishness, we create suffering. Over time, these patterns build up, shaping not just this life but also the conditions for future lives. This understanding encourages us to take personal responsibility for our actions, rather than relying on a divine figure to grant us forgiveness or judgment. In this way, Buddhist wisdom provides a clear path. There's no need for an external savior. The teachings remind us that our actions, guided by mindfulness and compassion, are what shape our destiny. The Buddha taught that we are the architects of our future, and the law of karma reflects this truth. So, when people ask, do Buddhists believe in God? It's helpful to understand this concept. In Buddhism, there's no need for a God to oversee the universe's balance. The cosmic mechanism of karma and rebirth does this naturally, encouraging us to live with intention and compassion. Next, we will look into how Buddhism remains open to other beliefs and how it promotes a non-dogmatic approach to spirituality. allowing for multiple paths to truth. Stay mindful as we continue this journey together. 5. Buddhism's open approach to other beliefs. As we continue to explore Buddhism, one of the most remarkable aspects of the Buddhist religion is its openness to other beliefs. In a world where religions often seem to clash, Buddhism stands out for its non-dogmatic nature and its emphasis on personal experience over rigid doctrines. This attitude offers a deep sense of spiritual freedom, inviting practitioners to explore truth in many forms. In Buddhist philosophy, there is no pressure to accept or reject the beliefs of others. The Buddha himself encouraged questioning everything, even his own teachings. This openness is evident in the way Buddhism coexists with other religions. For example, in Japan, Shinto beliefs blend seamlessly with Buddhist wisdom, while in Nepal, Hindu deities and Buddhist rituals often intermingle. This reflects Buddhism's view that there are many paths to truth. So, do Buddhists believe in God? As we've explored, Buddha's wisdom focuses more on personal transformation and self-discovery than on a creator God. However, this doesn't mean that Buddhism rejects the existence of deities or denies the beliefs of other faiths. Instead, it encourages practitioners to find what works for them on their spiritual journey. If that means incorporating prayers to divine beings or practices from other religions, many Buddhist traditions allow for this. This flexibility is part of what makes Buddhist philosophy so appealing to those seeking spiritual truth without the constraints of dogma. Whether someone is exploring Buddha prayer or the role of deities in their practice, Buddhism allows space to interpret these elements in ways that align with their personal experiences. For instance, many wonder, do Buddhists believe in Jesus? While Buddhism does not worship Jesus as a divine figure, it can respect him as a spiritual teacher. This shows how Buddhism remains open to the wisdom of other traditions without compromising its own teachings. It's not about exclusion, but about inclusivity and honoring the diverse paths toward truth. This non-dogmatic approach aligns with the Buddhist concept of wisdom. In Buddhist wisdom, true understanding comes from direct experience, not rigid beliefs. The Buddha taught that each person must find their own path to enlightenment. If other traditions offer tools that help in this journey, Buddhism remains open to those influences. Furthermore, Buddhism doesn't view other beliefs as competition. It doesn't claim to be the only way to truth. Whether someone comes from a Christian, Hindu, or secular background, they are welcome to explore Buddhism without feeling pressured to abandon their own faith. This openness is why many Westerners find Buddhism so intriguing. The lack of dogma and the invitation to explore make it accessible to people from all walks of life. This approach allows each person to embrace their spiritual journey with mindfulness and intention. Next, we'll look at the Buddha's silence on metaphysical questions and why Buddhism emphasizes practical tools for ending suffering over abstract debates. Stay mindful as we continue. 6. The Buddha's silence on metaphysical questions. As we continue our exploration of Buddhism, one of the most profound aspects of Buddha's wisdom is his silence on metaphysical questions. When asked about the existence of God, the universe's creation, or life after death, the Buddha often chose to remain silent. This wasn't out of avoidance, but because these questions didn't directly address the core issue, how to end suffering. In the Buddhist religion, the path to enlightenment is practical. It's about transforming the mind and heart to overcome suffering and achieve wisdom and compassion. Metaphysical debates, such as whether a God exists or how the universe began, are seen as distractions from this goal. They are what the Buddha called questions that do not lead to edification. In other words, pondering such matters doesn't help achieve inner peace or liberation. However, this doesn't mean that Buddhism rejects these questions outright. Instead, the focus is on what can be observed directly: our own experience. The teachings emphasize that understanding the mind, emotions, and suffering is more beneficial than speculating on cosmic mysteries. This practical approach is a hallmark of Buddha's wisdom and makes it especially relevant in the modern world. So, do Buddhists believe in God? The Buddha's silence on the subject leaves room for individual interpretation. While some Buddhists incorporate Buddha prayer or rituals involving deities, the core of Buddhism does not depend on belief in an omnipotent creator. The Buddha's teachings focus on self-realization and personal transformation, regardless of one's stance on metaphysical matters. A key element of Buddhist wisdom is the invitation to test all teachings, including the Buddha's, through personal experience. This stands in contrast to religious traditions that emphasize belief in higher powers or abstract metaphysical concepts. Buddhist philosophy encourages individuals to explore and validate teachings through mindful living, not blind faith. In the Kalama Sutta, the Buddha advised his followers not to accept teachings merely because they are written in scriptures or spoken by teachers. Instead, question and observe. Accept only what leads to peace and wisdom. This reflects Buddhism's practical focus. Overcoming suffering here and now is more important than abstract metaphysical debates. When questions like Buddha versus God arise, the Buddhist perspective is clear. Whether or not a divine being exists is secondary to ending suffering, cultivating compassion, and finding inner peace. These goals can be pursued without needing answers to every metaphysical question. The Buddha's silence reminds us that we don't need to understand the universe's mysteries to find peace within. By focusing on mindfulness and understanding our minds, we can uncover deeper truths that lead to liberation, without external validation or certainty. Next, we'll explore the concept of Buddha nature and how Buddhist wisdom teaches that divinity lies within each of us. Stay mindful as we continue this journey together. 7. Buddhist belief in divinity within. As we move further into the teachings of Buddhism, we arrive at one of the most profound and empowering concepts, the belief in divinity within. Rather than looking outward for an all-powerful deity, Buddha's wisdom invites us to look within ourselves for the true source of enlightenment. At the heart of Buddhist philosophy is the idea that each of us possesses Buddha nature. This concept refers to the inherent potential for enlightenment that resides in every being. In Buddhism, we are not fundamentally flawed or in need of salvation from an external source. Instead, we are already equipped with the wisdom and compassion needed to achieve spiritual liberation. The challenge is to uncover and cultivate these qualities through mindfulness and self-awareness. Many ask, do Buddhists believe in God? The answer, as we've seen, is complex. While Buddhism does not focus on a creator God, it does acknowledge the existence of deities in various forms. However, these deities are not worshipped as omnipotent figures that control our fate. Rather, they symbolize qualities that we are all capable of developing. This reflects the deeper teaching that divinity is not something outside of us, but something we nurture from within. This perspective is radically different from the theistic belief in an all-powerful God that many Western religions uphold. In those traditions, the divine is external, and salvation often depends on divine intervention. In contrast, Buddha's teachings encourage self-reliance. The journey toward enlightenment is a personal one, guided by our own efforts in cultivating mindfulness, meditation, and ethical living. Consider this. Buddhist wisdom teaches that every thought, word, and action we take shapes our experience of the world. When we act with compassion and awareness, we are in touch with our Buddha nature. This practice of mindfulness reveals the divinity within, a power that doesn't come from external gods, but from the wisdom already present in our hearts. In this way, Buddha's wisdom becomes a path of self-empowerment. Instead of praying to an external god to grant us strength or salvation, we learn to trust our own inner resources. The belief in Buddha nature shows that every individual has the potential to awaken, to uncover the profound wisdom and compassion that already exists within them. For those wondering how this aligns with other religious figures, like Jesus, it's important to understand the distinction. While Christians may see Jesus as the Son of God and the Savior of humanity, Buddhist philosophy emphasizes that each of us can cultivate qualities like compassion and wisdom, much like the divine qualities attributed to religious figures. Ultimately, the Buddhist religion teaches that the path to spiritual awakening lies in our hands. We don't need to rely on external saviors. Instead, we can cultivate the enlightened qualities within us, guided by mindfulness, meditation, and ethical actions. Next, we'll move into the final part of this journey by summarizing the key lessons we've explored and reflecting on how you can apply Buddha's wisdom in your own life. Stay mindful and continue walking this path of inner discovery. Conclusion. As we come to the end of this journey, let's pause and reflect on the key lessons we've explored. Buddhism offers a unique perspective on the concept of divinity. While it doesn't center around a single, all-powerful God, it also doesn't deny the existence of higher beings or enlightened qualities. Instead, Buddha's wisdom guides us inward, encouraging self-discovery, mindfulness, and compassion. We've discussed the idea of Buddha nature, the belief that each of us holds the potential for enlightenment within. This Buddhist philosophy shifts the focus from external saviors to the power we all carry inside. It reminds us that through our actions, thoughts, and wisdom, we can transform our lives and the world around us. We've also explored how Buddhism remains open to other beliefs, honoring the diversity of spiritual paths. Whether you come from a theistic tradition or are simply curious about Buddhist wisdom, there's a place for everyone on this path of mindfulness and awakening. Buddhism is not about rejecting beliefs in God or deities, but about focusing on what brings peace and wisdom in our daily lives. So, what does this mean for you? The essence of Buddha's teachings is clear. Trust in your own experience. The path to peace and spiritual growth is not found in external forces, but in the quiet, mindful moments of everyday life. By cultivating compassion and wisdom, you can tap into the Buddha nature that lies within. As you reflect on these ideas, ask yourself, how do my beliefs about God or divinity align with my personal journey of self-discovery? Whether you walk this path through Buddhist philosophy or another tradition, remember that the key to transformation lies within you. Thank you for joining this exploration of Buddhist applications. Stay mindful, stay compassionate, and continue discovering the wisdom that's already within you.